Today we're working on lesson 51. Now, lesson 51 is going to be pretty easy for the most part, but it is definitely kicking it up a notch as far as you having to be careful. It is multiplying by two-digit numbers. Multiplying by two-digit numbers. If you can multiply by one-digit numbers, and if you can pay attention to what you're doing, you will have no problem multiplying by two-digit numbers. Now let's look at multiplying a two-digit number by a one-digit number, just so you can make sure we're all on the same page. Let's say 15 times 4. Again, I don't care if you can give me the answer in your head. What I care about is, do you know the steps to do it? What we would do is we would say 4 times 5 is 20. We carry the 2. Then we say 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. So our answer is 60. Now that is multiplying a two-digit number by a one-digit number. Now let's change that up, and I'm going to leave that there just so you can see the connection. Let's say 15 times 14. Now this is multiplying a two-digit number by a two-digit number. It's going to start out exactly the same. I'm going to say 4 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry my 2. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. Now, if I were to erase that 1 from the 14, you would see that is 15 times 4. Now, the next step is, though, I need to move to the tens place. Permission to move to the tens place is granted as soon as I put a 0 down in the ones place. So permission to move to the tens place, permission granted with that 0. Now I'm going to multiply the exact same thing where I go 1 times 5. Well, 1 times 5 is 5. Then I'm going to go 1 times 4. I'm sorry, 1 times 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Then I'm going to add them together. 0, 11, 211. Now, just so you can see how that works also, let me go over to the other side over here and say 15 times 10. Well, you'll know how to do that. Even if you're doing it with the hanging 0, it would be 150. Well, did you notice? It's like saying 15 times 4 plus 15 times 10, because it's 14. So, with that in mind, if you can always remember, it's just like doing two multiplication problems in one. The big key is the permission to move to the tens place has to be done with a 0 in the ones, so you have permission to move to the tens. Let's take a look at a couple more just so you can make sure you're understanding the steps. The next example that the book gives you is 43 times 12. So let's take a look at that. 43 times 12. Now I'm going to go in the ones place first, and so I'm going to transfer colors here, and just so you can see it, 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. Now I'm going to move to the tens place. Permission to move to the tens place is granted only when I have a 0 in the ones place. Then I would say 1 times 3, my 10 times my 1, and 1 times 4, tens place times tens place, which is 4. Then I'm going to add them together. 6 plus 0 is 6, 8 plus 3 is 11, 1 plus 4 is 5. So 516. Now remember, the key is permission to move to the tens place. Other key is to watch that you are doing your ones and then doing your tens. So once you can get those steps in, it's actually just 2 little tiny multiplication problems. Another example the book gives you is at 35 cents each, what is the cost of 2 dozen pencils? Well, I would start at 35 cents each. 35 cents. You want to put your decimal in there just to make sure you don't forget it. And you're buying 2 dozen pencils, which is actually 24 pencils. So 24 pencils at 35 cents each is what total? Well, I'm going to start with my ones place. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry my 2. 4 times 3 is 12, plus the 2 is 14. Permission to move to the tens place, and then I move to the tens place, which is 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. Now some people find it easier to go ahead and erase your last carried number just so you don't accidentally add it in. So 2 times 5 is 10, carried the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus the 1 is 7. Then you add them together. 0, 4, 8. Now up there I have 2 decimal places and a dollar sign. So down here I need 1, 2 decimal places, and a dollar sign. So it cost me $8.40 to buy 24 pencils at 35 cents each. Hope you're seeing it's really just following the pattern. Now the why this works is based on the distributive property. Distributing things or passing them out, handing them out, dividing them up. So the distributive property would be seen in something like this. If I said 25 times 12. I could also say 25 times 10 plus 2. Now I hope you see my 12 is the same as 10 plus 2. Now I can distribute my 25 out with the distributive property. The distributive property says I can spread out, I can divide up my numbers. So I could say 25 times 10 plus 25 times 2. So in actuality what I've done is here was my first multiplication problem, here was my second multiplication problem, and I added them together. So that's what I did here. All of those are the same thing. This just here is showing the distributive property. Now, again, it applies to a situation where the sum is going to be multiplied out between two different numbers or distributed to two different numbers. So, in this case, I could say 25 times 10 is 250. 25 times 2 is 50. I add them together and I get 300. So 25 times 12 equals 300. Again, because of the distributive property, and that makes it a little bit easier. And that is actually, if you look back at your notes, that is actually what we're doing. We're multiplying by the tens place, and then we're multiplying by the ones place. Now, today in class, or tomorrow in class, you're going to be practicing several of these 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication problems. So again, when we discuss it, make sure that you ask if you have any questions or if anything is unclear. Otherwise, remember, follow the pattern and make sure you're multiplying your little multiplication problems correctly. Have a wonderful evening.